want to share it with the chat that is currently on YouTube. So that's going to take me a second. Currently on YouTube. I appreciate it very much. This is hilarious. Can you see me? I don't want to end the live. Paul says much better. Hi, Paul. You can see me. I can't see myself, which doesn't make any sense. I'm just going to quickly put this link in the chat for the horizontal live. This has never happened before either. Y'all, oh my gosh. I can't see myself in this vertical live, but Paul says he can see and hear me. So, okay, that's what matters. Okay. All right. Yay. That something is working well enough, I guess. Here's. Okay, so I wanted to do this sort of kind of silly. The State of the Seeds is a silly name, like the State of the Union, but I wanted to do this address. It's sort of a new tradition that we have that I have been doing annually. This might only be the second year. I might have done it for the first time last year in January, where I share about what's going on with seeds and about how that fits in with like the global, what's going on a global scale right now, and sort of the longer term vision of seeds, based on what I know right now at this moment in time in January of 2026. So this is meant to, like just better communicate how I'm seeing what's going on so that you're aware of this too, and to invite your feedback as somebody who's interested in seeds or who's contributed to seeds like Paul has. And yeah, just to talk about everything that's going on, because there is, needless to say, a lot of activity, a lot of events happening externally, many of which are really distressing. And it's just time for an update. I've been out of the Seeds Discord for a little while and trying to focus on, well, multiple things, which I'll share with you. But one of those things is figuring out how to better share about seeds so that we're connecting with more people who are interested in mutual aid, who understand that the old economic system isn't working and who are looking for alternatives. But at the same time, seeds has flaws itself that we need to address. And I want to talk about those flaws now and what we've learned and mistakes I've made and mistakes Seeds has made and how we're addressing that going forward too. So what we'll do, my intention and sort of like the structure for this talk, is to look at this from both like a spiritual and a practical standpoint, right? And that includes, going over mistakes that I've made and Seeds has made, as I touched on, but also, the spiritual, I think, is so present at this moment in time. I think, and I want to speak openly about spirituality in talks like this because it's so important and it informs so much of what Seeds does. But I think we're at this kind of juncture right now. I intentionally scheduled this address for today because Neptune went into Aries yesterday, and I think that's going to mean that things start picking up. And beyond that framework, sort of like the spiritual and the practical, I want to look at three different areas. The first area I'd like to talk about is what's going on globally and nationally in the United States, the country where I live. And then I want to talk about what's going on for Seeds and what I see, like the vision for Seeds in the intermediate term and in the longer term. And then I also wanted to share some updates about me personally. I know Paul had mentioned that he'd read the last blog post, or I guess it's 2 blog posts ago now, but I'm interested in this idea of like the limitations of the creator of a thing, the unhealed things in that creator show up in the things that they make, right? And that's the reason that a lot of big tech is so messed up, that plus capitalism. But in my case, as the founder of Seeds, I have my own things that have contributed to issues and flaws and my own things that, my own sort of like personal, just like unhealed wounds that I need to address. And so I'm working to do that. And I want to talk about what's showing up for me personally, because it's also manifested in a bunch of physical health issues recently. And also like how that informs what's going on with Seeds and how bringing awareness to that is so important. I think it's important for everybody who makes a thing, especially if it's something that involves other people, right? I mean, if it's a work of art that you're just sharing for people to consume or people to reflect upon, it's a little bit different. But I think this is really important for people that started organizations, right? Which is what Seeds is. Seeds is an organization. So within that context, we'll take it from the macro down to the micro. We're seeing, I think, in a way that's increasingly undeniable, right? This collapse of the old systems. I've been talking about this for a long time. A lot of people have been talking about this for a long time. It really seems like Trump is unwittingly the the perpetrator for all of this. I mean, I think he stepped into this role to really show us how much these old systems don't work and how much negative wounded masculine energy is in all of that. I mean, as I'm recording this, Alex Preddy was murdered 2 days ago. Was it? I guess it was Saturday, so I guess that's 3 days ago now. And yeah, we're seeing the country that I live in, you know, increasingly the government is violently turning against its citizens. And this is supposedly supposed to be like the land of the free, and it's the richest country in recorded history. So like all of this happening is really showing us the capitalism doesn't work well, and that these governing systems aren't working very well either. But what we don't have is a large understanding of sort of alternatives, right? Like the one alternative that we've been aware of for 150 years or whatever is something like communism or socialism. And there isn't a lot of education. I think I'll make this more United States focused because I live here in part, but also because it seems like it's been this sort of focal point for a lot of the recent dysfunction, particularly since Trump took office again in, you know, just over a year ago. So yeah, it's sort of everything is kind of playing out on this stage here in this country. And a challenge that I find is that we don't know, there's a lot of conversation I think about like why this isn't working and how messed up it is, but we don't have alternatives. The one alternative we know about is communism. The democratic institutions here are eroding. There's a lot of distrust and like increasing lack of faith in these systems. And it seems like it's reaching a boiling point from what I can tell. And I find it fascinating that's what astrologers and spiritual people have been talking about for a long period of time. So I know that 2026 is meant to be, as I understand, like I'm like an astrological hobbyist, but also from the context of, you know, like I'm a Vipassana meditator, and we're in this sort of, the gong of Vipassana has been struck, is what one of the teachers in the lineage that I studied in had said, that Vipassana is meant to start spreading at this time. And so Seeds includes Vipassana in our model as well. So it's just this kind of, I think a lot of us incarnated at this time to be alive for this very moment, which is, it's chaotic, but I think it's also going to be a sort of fascinating time. I apologize, I gotta do one more thing on my other device. So yeah, within all of that, that instability, I mean, we're seeing greater increases of wealth inequality as well. Trump's stupid tariffs have contributed largely to that instability, and it's made the markets really unpredictable. I want to talk a bit more about that because the cryptocurrency markets they don't do what they used to do. And so that's made things more difficult as well, because the things that I used to do to be able to make significant profits when trading cryptocurrency aren't working anymore. And that's affected Seeds as well, because I would put trading profits that I made into the Seeds mutual aid pool and into Seeds as an organization. And excuse me, yeah, like if Trump is, you know, suddenly talking about taking Greenland and then changing his mind, it's pretty difficult to make decisions within that environment, because you can't predict that. I mean, you can predict that he's going to be unpredictable and that he's going to do narcissistic things, but it's just, I'm finding that to be, it's just such a destabilizing factor. Paul says, I hope the state you're in is safe. Thanks, Paul. I'm in Portland, Oregon. Oregon is the state, and there was an ICE shot. I think there were Venezuelan immigrants here a little bit after the first murder in Minnesota. There's protesting happening here, but yeah, this is part of the reason I'm living here now is because it's a progressive place. Thank you for saying that, Paul. But yeah, Trump is kind of targeting progressive places too. Anyway, so within that context, yeah, the crypto markets, which I and lots of people, expected to move with the cycles as they had for the last, almost 17 years. They didn't do that. They didn't move in that way in December, or rather in the end of 2025. We expected, based on past market cycles, that they would go up a lot. And that just didn't happen. Like Ether hit all-time highs in August, but those all-time highs were barely above what it had reached in 2021 in the previous cycle. And yeah, it's been sort of interesting, and I wanted to talk about this on a personal level because nothing has worked, and it almost feels like if one thing that used to work, or one idea that I'd had as the founder of Seeds, if one of 6 or 7 different things that we were working on and trying had worked, then we would be totally, it's not that we're not fine, but things are just more difficult right now. If anything had worked, then we would have, an abundance of funds and things would have carried on as the way they had in the past, but nothing worked. And it's just been interesting to see it when I'm talking about like energy's messing with me and messing with Seeds, it does feel like there's something there interfering, but I think that's going to shift soon. So yeah, I mean, we're seeing these cycles playing out. For what it's worth, my sense of why the crypto markets didn't go up, like not everyone, but a lot of people who had been trading for years expected them to in the end of 2025, because that's always what had happened at that point in the cycle. It seems like I didn't anticipate this either, but because particularly Bitcoin has become so institutionalized with like the introduction of the Bitcoin ETF in January of 2024, what I didn't see coming is that because cryptocurrencies became more institutionalized, Bitcoin and Ether in particular, it's like people are hedging Ether trades against their Bitcoin investments. And it seems like that's really held Ether down, whereas Bitcoin did go up more percentage-wise. If Ether and Bitcoin had retained the relationship that they've kept for years and years, then Ether would be around $12,000 a coin right now instead of less than $3,000 a coin. So it's really it's been significantly tamped down, and even Bitcoin didn't run like it used to. And so what I didn't anticipate them hedging it in this way. The Ether market in particular, because I've been trading Ether more actively, it just really feels manipulated. It will sometimes take turns that you can't, in my experience, you can't see coming. And it just feels like BlackRock, some organization that holds a large amount of Ether, is messing with the price. And I really think some of it, the manipulation is about, getting retail traders like you and me to put our funds in to then try and get shaken out of the market so that they can buy things up more cheaply. But the other facet of that I didn't anticipate is that they've kind of turned Ether into like a shitty stock. Like it just moves kind of sideways, like a stock that isn't viewed to be that valuable. And it's so disappointing because they've just brought it into the system and made it the same thing. And that was never what it was intended to be. And I don't think that's going to last forever. I still believe in Ether in particular. I'm a big believer in Ether. But I mean, when trading Ether recently, I think it was, the biggest single move that we had, in a moment in time, was when there was a Fed announcement from, like the Fed in the States, the chair of the Fed, Jerome Powell, talked about interest rates, and that moved the market. And that meant that I think he's a 72-year-old man, one 72-year-old white American man made remarks that moved Ether, which is meant to be a decentralized ecosystem. So that's about as centralized as you can get in terms of the influence. And it's really a huge bummer. But I think it's just a reflection of those centralized energies, those controlling top-down energies, really trying to squeeze everything as much as possible because they're about to go away, because they're about to fall. But that said, it's had this practical impact in the immediate term. Paul says market feels very manipulated. Yeah, I mean, I really think so too. And I never was of that opinion before the past, I don't know, 6 to 8 months or something like that. To be fair, I wasn't actively trading Ether as much prior to then in this cycle. But yeah, it never has done this before. And I think there's quite clearly some manipulation from some rich people that have a lot of Ether. And that was never the dream of what Ether was meant to be. Yeah, Paul says gold, silver stocks have run up. Yeah, Paul, I was just thinking about this yesterday because when I used to be a pro stock trader, like in my first job, I've talked about this before, you probably heard me talk about it, but for anyone who might not be aware, so when I started trading, it was in April of 2008 when I started trading professionally. So it was like just as the markets were about to collapse. And I found a way to make money through buying gold stocks because people didn't trust the market. So gold was going up and there were stocks that were, grounded in the value of gold. So I just bought those and they went up. And that kind of aligned with my personality because I tend to be optimistic. And it seems like that's a move to do again right now. I mean, we know that gold just topped $5,000 for the first time ever. Excuse me. It just seems like that's maybe the wise investment to be making at this point in time. And that was true in 2008 also. And I feel like, that's not coincidental. It shows that there's dysfunction in the markets overall. So now I'm going to bring this to seeds. So what this has meant for seeds is that the levers, Paul, I'm sure you know a lot of this already. This may be familiar to folks that watch this later, but the things that worked for seeds for years just abruptly stopped working in late 2024-ish and beyond. Maybe even before that though, actually. And as I said earlier, I'd estimate, there were 6-ish, maybe more different, levers that we would pull to keep seeds going, to sustain it, to help it to grow. And everything stopped working at once. We had significantly less people adding to the seeds mutual aid pool, and that's what stabilizes the seeds price. In the past, we gave extremely generous bonuses to incentivize people adding to the mutual aid pool. And over time, I just came to realize that it wasn't actually working well because it ended up rewarding people who didn't care enough about helping seeds, essentially. So the root of all of this, which I'll talk more about when I talk about what's going on for me personally, is that it's been too much giving to those who are taking too much at the end of the day. I hate to say it, but that's kind of been the theme. And so that's the lesson that needs to be learned and sort of the safeguards that we need to create. And it's a bummer. I don't want it to be that way. I just want to give openly and trust. But for reasons that I'll share that have to do with my own personal stuff, that hasn't worked well. There needs to be a better balance. And that's probably the biggest lesson, I think, of this point in time. And it's an important lesson to learn. And I'm also working on, feeling grateful to the people who have helped me learn that lesson, even if their actions weren't wholesome actions, and forgiving there, because there were some instances that were pretty painful when I saw, like, for example, you know, like whenever, after I was robbed, I've talked about this a lot, but after I was robbed in late 2024, and I used Seeds to ask for help, there were some folks who I think, kind of gone above and beyond to personally help, and that Seeds had certainly also helped. And one said that she was gonna, one just volunteered to send a gift. This is a person I thought of as a friend too. And then she just disappeared and never sent the gift. And she'd received, I think, a $5,800 gift from Seeds some time ago. A couple others that I reached out to directly, 3 others I can think of. None of them even responded. So, like, if I'm creating an environment in which, when I'm in a crisis and I'm going to people that I've personally helped before and that's the response, that means I'm choosing the wrong people, right? That means that it's good to help people always, but there also is this discernment factor that I think I was learning a hard lesson surrounding that. And so I'm learning it. I'm learning it, and, you know, like I said, trying to do my best to, like, feel gratitude and forgive. But with some of that stuff, it was hard because, particularly, I think with, well, yeah, people that I helped, I think, considerably, not even responding was pretty sad. It was pretty sad. And so that just means that I need to understand why I created those situations for myself and not create them again, because it's not helpful for anybody. Like, literally no one in that paradigm. It's not good for Seeds. It's certainly not good for me personally because it leaves me depleted. It's also not good for the people who are taking, because then they're just, like, accumulating bad karma that they're gonna have to deal with later. So anyway, yeah, so these various levers that worked for Seeds for years suddenly faltered. So we had a lot less people adding to the mutual aid pool. And I think some of that had to do with the fact that we started to scale back these very generous bonuses that we'd given for years. And that was the right move because it was incentivizing, like, the people that wanted to take rather than to help sustain the project. In too many cases to be clear, there are some wonderful people that are involved with Seeds that I appreciate so much. And Paul is absolutely one of them. And that's terrific that we found those people, but we need to find more of those people and make sure that, just, like, we're not being taken advantage of, I guess, and that I'm not being taken advantage of. And that's just the reality. That's the reality that we have to learn. Yeah, and as I've shared before, like, the course, which sustained us for many years, like, we literally got 0 course sales in 2025. And that's never happened before. In our best course year, I think we had something like 150 course sales. And I mean, if we get, like, 30 course sales, like, our costs are so low. If we get 30 course sales, that's enough to sustain the project for, like, a year. So that was interesting. I mean, and there are other, like, contributing factors. The cryptocurrency markets as a whole going down was part of it, but that also meant that I was reaching the wrong people. If people were suddenly not interested in, like, using a social good organization or supporting it because the cryptocurrency markets were down, that means that we weren't finding the people who were actually interested in supporting a new type of ecosystem and interested in what that can do. So the same thing, it was that same challenge kind of showing itself in a different way. And I'm not sure, to communicate this now, I don't think I'm going to teach the course again unless it's, like, a group of people who I know really understand and want to support the vision of Seeds. And if we have that, terrific. Like, because I enjoy teaching it, it's fun. And I think I have insight. I know I need to also not be inappropriately modest. I know that the experience that I have in terms of trading and cryptocurrency trading specifically, I mean, I haven't come across anyone on the internet at all or anywhere that has that experience. It's just, like, factual. Somebody who used to be a pro stock trader who started buying Bitcoin in 2013, who founded their own cryptocurrency project. There's nobody out there that's like that. And so I have that. And the notion that even that isn't connecting, that also shows, I think, that, like, the larger kind of struggle I've been kind of trying to navigate and trying to understand is how much of my time and energy and that of Seeds needs to be about sort of like engaging with the old systems. How much of this is like, and I think teaching the course was a form of kind of engaging with the old system, because it's about trading. And even though cryptocurrency is still a new sector, I mean, cryptocurrency is now 17 years old because Bitcoin is over 17 years old. But yeah, people still think of it as like a new thing. So it was this toggle between like, I'm sorry, one second. Trying to understand like how much of this is like I need to accept the old way and still engage with it to survive, and how much of my energy should actually be spent just looking at the future that I see and that I envision for Seeds and for the world, and sort of just only pointing myself toward that, because it hasn't felt like there's a ton of support for that yet. But I think that is going to shift in 2026 in particular as the energies change. So yeah, I'm not sure that I will teach the course again unless that's present, unless it's clear that there is a group that really understands and wants to support Seeds and is interested in and wants me to do it. And then I'd be happy to do it. But yeah, that larger internal conversation I've been having, that monologue with myself about like how much should we engage with the old system at all, has been, I still feel very confused about it. I share, if the horizontal live had worked, I was going to share, like this Buckminster Fuller quote that I've shared a lot. This idea that, so he was like an American futurist who lived in the 20th century. And he has this quote that I'll paraphrase poorly about this idea of like, if you want to change the system, don't fight the existing one. To change the system, build a new system that renders the old one obsolete. And that's very much what Seeds is. But the challenge has always been like, Seeds still exist within this world. It exists within the context of this existing economy and the existing sort of like perception of cryptocurrency generally. And then it's like, should Seeds even use the word cryptocurrency? Because the people that would like mutual aid and that are tired of capitalism, a lot of them hear the word crypto and they immediately think scam, right? And that wasn't true, 3 years ago. So like things have changed very quickly, and I know that they'll change again. And so yeah, that's the thing I've struggled with, like how much should we engage with the old world, because we do still live in this world, right? And I've always thought that Seeds was sort of like a bridge to the new world, and that Seeds would really thrive when things had shifted a little bit more. And I think we'll see if that bears out. I mean, I believe it with my whole heart. And I think we're getting closer to that shift. But yeah, the thing I've struggled to understand is like how much engagement with the old world is necessary to survive, quote unquote. And so that shows that I have a survival mindset whenever it comes to engaging with the existing world. But in this sort of new world we're bridging into, it's an abundance mindset, which is what Seeds is about. It's about creating abundance for everyone who engages with the system. But then also Seeds has been impacted by the scarcity in the existing system. Like the Seeds mutual aid pool is super depleted right now. And it's because of these energies in the old system, I would say. The sort of taking energy, it's really been kind of beaten up. Seeds has been beaten up within the context of this old paradigm. And I think what that's meant is that we're supposed to sort of like survive this period. And I'm supposed to learn these lessons as a founder of Seeds about like making sure that we're like, for example, here, so more practical sort of application. One impact that is terrible of the Seeds pool being so depleted right now is that the most recent gift, I think it's the third largest gift that Seeds has ever given, which Paul's familiar with, which went to Jen in late 2025. It was for $30,000 to help her build a cob house, which I think is like such a cool gift. And Jen was only able to receive, I think it was like $18,000 of that gift before the Seeds mutual aid pool was depleted. So that means she can't yet, we have to wait for the Seeds value to go back up before she's able to get the remaining $12,000 of that gift. We've never had anything remotely like that happen before. and it can't happen again. And seeds will come back up in value, and we're adding to the mutual aid pool as much as we can. But like, as I say, like the old levers, selling the course, me trading and making, you know, significant profits trading, and then being able to put my personal trading profits into the mutual aid pool, none of that works anymore. So like, we can't do that ourselves. And I think it's trying to teach me like, yo, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, it's got to be reaching more people who are helping it to sustain. And I was doing too much. I've shared versions of this many times before, but it's just like the lesson really seems like I'm being forced to learn it. It can't be that way where I'm sort of overextending myself and depleting myself. It has to be this nourishing thing for everybody involved. And I mean, I'm the founder of it, right? So like, when you're the founder of the thing, you often have to make a lot of sacrifices at the beginning, right? And yeah, I've made a lot of sacrifices for Seeds. I was arrested in Nairobi for no reason and held in a Nairobi jail working on Seeds. I've put lots of money into Seeds, my own money over the years, and had very difficult financial circumstances for many years while working on Seeds. And I'm totally happy to do all of that. But I think it's just reached the point where it can't continue that way. And I think my physical body is also forcing me to acknowledge that as well. So I want to talk about that too. And yeah, just as a last thought about like sort of the meta or macro environment that we're in. I mean, I was thinking too about the support that we do receive in the old systems through governmental systems and so forth. So much of that is like, that money is available because people are forced to pay it, because rich people are forced to pay taxes, and a lot of them don't even pay anywhere near the percentage of taxes that regular people pay, right? It's like, so like that, I think that's very simple. What's the right word? It sort of illustrates this idea. Like, Seeds is about a world where people are giving, and they're building abundance through giving, and they're helping others. And, you know, this idea of creating a bigger pie for all involved. The old system is about forcing people to pay money so governments can give us services. And then those governments are not doing a good job of giving us those services at all. And it's a mess. It's just very much, yeah, just like of this new energy. And so in the past, it's been very frustrating to me, for example, when, you know, like in one instance, Seeds gave a gift to a new mom in South Carolina, a Black woman who was having her second child, and there were complications, and the stupid hospital was going to charge her $4,000 for this like routine birth. I mean, there were complications as I understand, but just like stuff like that where Seeds is filling the gap so that fucking health insurance companies, which are dictating healthcare, can profit. That's awful. That's terrible. And that's happened many times where Seeds has given a gift because these systems aren't working. But Seeds has its own flaws as well, as I say, that we need to address. So yeah, so speaking to that specifically, to mistakes that Seeds has made that we need to address, like a situation like Jen's, where she wasn't able to get her full gift when she wanted to get it, can't happen again. So solutions that we've come up with to address this include like, tranches. So what we're going to do in the future, especially if it's a gift that large. So Jen's gift was unique in many ways. One of the reasons it was unique was because it was like the third largest gift we've ever given. And another way it was unique was because, truly unique, because we've never had this circumstance before, is because its size was very close to the size of the mutual aid pool as a whole. So that makes the whole model like precarious. So what we need to do to make sure that nothing like this happens again could involve and should involve, I think, giving people the option to receive their gift in tranches so that they just get it like at a certain moment in time. So even if the pool is depleted for some reason, if they're receiving their gift in tranches, they're still going to get that amount that aligns with the amount. Like, for example, because she got all of her gift at once, she benefited because the Seeds price, she benefited at first because the Seeds price went up. And so she got even more money than she initially would have gotten, right? But then whenever the mutual aid pool was depleted, then it was a lot less money that was available to her. So if we're giving the gifts in tranches, then she can just redeem them as she receives them, and we're not going to have that risk of a fluctuation in price. So that's one thing we can do that we're going to do in the future. We should also keep, Seeds itself should keep a reserve in stable coins. And this is like a little bit of a painful lesson too, because it was about trust. I trusted that other people would be stewards of the Seeds mutual aid pool. And we only started referring to it as a mutual aid pool, I'd say really in like the last year and change, to try and help people understand that that's what it is. It's a mutual aid pool. If folks are taking from it, you know, then there are less funds in there and so forth. It's a pool. It's not a market in the same way that, you know, you're just trading the market if you're trading Apple stock or something like that. There are similarities. There's this cross section. That's where we exist. It's sort of this nexus between, you know, so-called nonprofit and for-profit work. But I think a lot of people, so some of this is a communication problem as well. I think a lot of people didn't realize that if they were selling seeds, you know, it's taking funds from the mutual aid pool. And also people should be able to do that. They should be able to do whatever they want with their funds. But again, this points to that idea of like needing to find more people who want to be stewards of the Seeds vision and want to help support it, so that we have more people doing that and less people taking from it. I mean, people can take from it as they want, and they should be able to, if we have that balance. But if there are obviously too many takers, then we end up in a situation like we're in right now, where the pool is super depleted and I can't do the things I used to do, like making profits and trading, to shore it back up again. And I think at the end of the day, that's good, because it means that we have to approach this in a different way. I can't do that anymore. I can't be sort of giving more than I should be to sustain Seeds. It needs to be sustained by others as well, to like, I mean, not to the same extent, because like, I don't expect other people to do the stuff that I've done, right, to keep it going. But it just, as I've said in different ways many times, like we need to find more people who are really into that and want to support it in that way. And it doesn't take much either. Like the Seeds, that's the thing, like there are so many, I mean, I think we shared this in the Discord. Like Michael had said that something like $20,000 would bring the pool right back to where it was in late 2025. And for lots of people in this world, particularly in the United States, that's not very much money. I don't personally have $20,000 though to put into the pool myself now, or I would have already done it. So yeah, it's just like, our costs are so low, relatively speaking. It's not going to take that much to address this over time. But yeah, that's just where we are right now. I don't have a rich person that I can go to ask them to put that amount of money in the pool. Although I'm trying that. One of the things I'm doing now that I've been devoting my time to since like stepping away from like day-to-day Seeds communication in the Discord and so forth, is I've been focusing on trying to find rich people basically to help with this. But I'm also conflicted about that, because it's like, that's that idea of engaging with the old world, right? And like this idea that rich people will be philanthropic. And I guess I have to do that because of the existing environment that I'm in and that Seeds is in. But that's not the way we want to go longer term, right? Like Seeds is decentralized. It's about helping everybody. It's about benefiting the giving people. And yeah, so that's like what startups do. They go to rich people and try to convince them to invest. And what Seeds is something different than that. I used to think it was a startup years ago, and it's just not. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like this sort of mutual aid idea that is bridging the for-profit, nonprofit worlds to genuinely create this opportunity for giving people to build abundance because they helped. There's nothing like that I'm aware of. And that's another reason I think it's been challenging, right? When it's a new thing, when you finally break through, then that new thing can really soar, and then there'll be copycats and so forth. But like up until that point, when it doesn't sort of fit into a category, I think, you know, that's typical for quote unquote new things, or things that seem to bridge worlds that people hadn't thought about connecting, like cryptocurrency and helping people, for example. I mean, anyway, I think you understand what point I'm trying to make. So yeah, those are issues that Seeds needs to address to prevent something like this from ever happening again. Another thing we're going to do is to make an adjustment. It'll be a dynamic adjustment, because up to this time, 100% of the gifts that came through Seeds would go, the value of those gifts would go to recipients. And that worked because we had these other levers like the course sustaining the mutual aid pool and cryptocurrency itself going up in value. That was a big thing. Like if the markets, like I said, you know, like of these 6 different levers that we would pull, if one of them would have worked, then things would have been, the status quo would have been maintained, but everything didn't work. Everything failed last year or last like year and a half. Cryptocurrency didn't go up. It didn't go up very much. So that's another thing. We, let's force this situation where we need to look at things and think like it's dope. And I still want us, like, the solution that we've envisioned is Seeds to date has, as I just started saying, 100% of the gifts that come through the Seeds ecosystem, the value of those gifts goes to recipients. That's something that nonprofits, I'm only aware of one that can say that, and they're a massive nonprofit and they have rich people supporting their operating expenses. Seeds was able to do this because of these levers that worked, because of, yeah, just the way the ecosystem was designed and cash flow and the way cryptocurrency had gone up in value substantially over the years. We're going to need to adjust that now. And I've shared this before, I know, in a session that we had with Paul, I think in our last course. My understanding is that the most efficient nonprofits ensure that 80% of the gifts that come through their system make it to recipients. So they have an operating cost of 20% of those, you know, the gifts coming in. So Seeds is going to need to do this on some sort of dynamic scale, because just very recently we were in a situation where like we don't have enough funds to cover our operating expenses. And so we did have to dip into the mutual aid pool to get a little bit of money, and we're replenishing that, but I don't want that to have to happen. It doesn't matter longer term, you know, like if Seeds are available on a lot of platforms and there's a lot of liquidity in the market, then we could do that and it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't have any effect. But when the mutual aid pool is still this small, as small as it is right now, then it has an effect. And so we need to set things up so that that doesn't have to happen. So we need to do that. So it'll be a dynamic adjustment based on the amount of gifts coming in. So if there are more gifts coming in as well, we also wouldn't need to dip below 100%, because then we have cash flow and it's fine. But yeah, gifts have really dwindled in the last year and a half as well. And yeah, it's just a function of, it's like a marketing thing or whatever. I kind of hate using that word, but yeah, it's just finding more people who are into what we're doing at Seeds and sharing that with them. Yeah, so that's it at the end of the day. So like, I think I maybe share this in the Discord. I know that Michael had said it in the Discord as well, but my focus at this time in terms of work has been about like, first of all, I need to approach work in a way that does not leave me depleted in any sense, financially, energetically, you know, like in terms of putting out so much to people who can't receive it or aren't interested in receiving it and aren't reciprocating. I have to stop doing that. And I haven't made a YouTube video, like an edited YouTube video, in like 2.5 months, because I realized I can't approach it in the way that I used to approach it. Like YouTube is probably going to be the engine that will most quickly reach more people who are interested in supporting Seeds. TikTok worked really well for that a few years ago, except it didn't work as well as I thought it did, because with short form, I've talked about this before, but like with short form videos, it was like I just became thought of as like a cryptocurrency person. And I think I was one of the first people to talk about cryptocurrency on that platform, but they didn't get that I was doing that to share about Seeds, to share about transcending capitalism. And so it's almost like the followers that I was able to accumulate there, I mean, none of that is translated into sustaining seeds longer term, which was kind of jarring to realize, but now I know, right? So like with YouTube, it's long form videos. I think people get to know you better personally. And YouTube itself can also be, of course, like a revenue stream. I'm not monetized on YouTube yet, but I think that could happen within the next few months if I'm just making consistent edited videos. So that's the plan. But I also became aware that I really can't, like in the past, I would just kind of force myself to do it, force myself to get a video out every week. There was a lot of this energy of forcing myself, of like, I have to do this, surrounding my work and all facets of what Seeds is. And it's kind of like, I just couldn't do that. Like I knew I shouldn't do that anymore because it left me depleted, and then it was attracting more behaviors that further depleted me. But also, so this is like a good segue, I guess, into what's been going on with me. My body is like revolting. My physical body is no longer allowing me to do that. So I've talked a bunch on my YouTube channel about my eating disorder recovery and stuff. And you can like just look at the videos and know that I've gained a massive amount of weight, but that's what's supposed to happen through eating disorder recovery. But the thing is, like at this point, I'm like over a year and 9 months into eating disorder recovery. I started in April of 2024. And I thought that more of this excess weight would just come off by this time. And it can take a long time. But there have also been other amazing instances of progress that have happened through the eating disorder recovery that I never thought I would see. So I'm grateful for going through the process. I'm grateful for like how it's helping me with my internalized fat phobia. It's also been interesting to be this fat now and kind of engage with the world and see like how it changes perceptions, but a lot of them are just my internalized perceptions. It's not like anyone's being mean to me because I'm fat, except occasionally I think in YouTube comments, but yeah, I don't know. It's just been confronting and helpful in a bunch of different ways. But I thought more of this weight would come off by this time. So that's been a whole thing. And that was about nourishing myself instead of restricting the same things, like not allowing myself to be depleted. And not only not allowing it, but just like shifting into an energy of being nourished, right? This energy of abundance, which is the entire sort of larger conversation relating to seeds as well. Shifting from this scarcity paradigm that is the current economic ecosystem into this world of abundance that I think Seeds is going to thrive in. So it's like, as the founder of Seeds, and just as a person, right? And as a woman, because I think so many women are in a similar state where they're just depleted all the time. And it was just like, I couldn't do it anymore. My body wouldn't let me do it anymore. And then on top of eating disorder recovery stuff, in just like the last 6 weeks, I think, or so, I went to the doctor, and one thing led to another, and they ended up doing like an ultrasound and a CT scan of my abdomen, and they found 6 different growths. And one thing is going to have to be biopsied. They haven't done the biopsy yet. So they're doing the biopsy to rule out cancer. And I don't think I have cancer. I think whatever's going on is hormonal, which totally makes sense in that my larger mission in this life seems to be about like balancing healthy masculine and feminine energies. And thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just kind of, it's confronting because it also means that I am, so again, this larger conversation about like I am forced to engage with the existing system because I have to go into the American healthcare system because I live in the States, and this is like where I have insurance in this state of the state of Oregon, which is a lot kinder than a lot of other American states. I have to go into this system to get care, and it's been pretty terrible already. Just the amount of like the errors that I'm seeing them making, and me having to follow up and advocate for myself and kind of steel myself just to go into this system because there's no one else here to help me do it. I don't have like somebody else here who's like a loved one or whatever to help advocate for me, but we shouldn't have to be advocating for ourselves like this in a system that's supposed to be about care anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna get that biopsy soon. They'll tell me if it's cancer or not. I don't think it's cancer, but there's some stuff going on that like needs to be understood and figured out. And I think that's probably contributing to like why I haven't lost more of this excess weight yet, because I think some hormonal stuff is going on. So yeah, that's been a little, I didn't expect any of that to happen. Like I thought there might be blood work stuff I need to do or something, but I didn't expect them to find. I mean, they found like a nodule on my left adrenal. I talked about this a little bit, I think, in yesterday's meditation live. They found a cyst on my kidney, which I think doesn't seem like it presents a problem. There's like a fibroid in my uterus that's like really large. And then there's like an almost 7 centimeter cyst, which is huge. It's like as big as an apple, an ovarian cyst. And like cysts aren't a big deal. I mean, they're annoying, but they usually go away. But the other growth that they're biopsying is a bit of a cause for concern, I guess. And then, yeah, I'm going to do another CT scan to look more closely at the adrenal nodule, because it looks like that could be disrupting hormones, potentially. So we're going to find that out. But yeah, I think it's just more of this lesson of like, I have to take care of this body and this self. It has to be nourished. I'm feeding it enough now. And it's, by the way, it's such a weird thing to like be this fat and know that I never overeat. Like truly, since the eating disorder recovery started, I no longer overeat even by really like a couple bites, like ever. And it's also giving me more empathy of like, you know, I mean, the eating disorder specifically that I had was restrictive. So I would like not eat much and I would exercise a lot. I mean, there were periods of my life where I was like running 7 miles every day. I've run 2 marathons and I think I've done like 11 half marathons or something. And I really like running, and I can't run now either because my back is all messed up and all this extra weight. It would just destroy my knees. But what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, it was like restrictive and kind of orthorexic, I guess, over exercising, not eating enough. And then invariably after like 3 months of not eating enough for 3 weeks, I would binge. And I would think it was because I was emotionally eating or something. But what I've learned through the ED recovery is that like my body was telling me to do that because it was hungry, because it was starved. And so, yeah, I don't starve this body anymore. And this massive weight gain has been part of that process. Once you start feeding it, it tells you it wants more. And then it's kind of cool too, because it's like, I think a lot of people are afraid to trust their bodies enough to just feed the body what it's asking for. But what I'm learning is that once you do that, eventually it stops asking for stuff. Like in the beginning, for a while, I like wanted I was craving cookie dough a lot. And so I would get cookie dough because that's what you're supposed to do. If you want the food, you're supposed to eat the food. And then eventually I just like got sick of cookie dough. And now I like don't want to eat it at all. And yeah, it's just happened for like a variety of different foods that my body apparently needed for a period of time. And then I just fed it as much as it wanted of those foods. And then it didn't want it anymore. And so like in the beginning of eating disorder recovery, you're like really hungry. Well, first your hunger, at least if you're like me and you're restrictive, your hunger signals are all messed up. Like I had to use mental hunger, that's what they call it, because your physical hunger signals have been so ignored that they stop telling you that you're hungry until you reach a certain point where you've healed enough that they kind of turn back on. Yeah, so it's just like, it's been kind of cool. Like if you just trust your body doesn't want you to be like 300 pounds or something. It wants to get to homeostasis, and it's constantly trying to do that. And if you give it enough food, then it can get to a healthier place. So anyway, there's all of that. Oh, I should also share too, in addition to the physical health stuff, that I hope I'm making clear like how this totally ties into all of it. Like this is seeds, right? This is like, it can't be about depletion. Therefore, I can't be depleted. I have to nourish myself literally with enough food. And I have to nourish myself generally. And then that's going to show up through seeds, because seeds is a thing that I made and then I still like steward. And yeah, so then with other health stuff that's been showing up for me, another thing that was confronting recently as like a last thought, I'll stop here soon, was that I shared this in like a live Vipassana sit that I did, but I had a panic attack for the first time ever. That might be related to this adrenal nodule. That's a symptom that can indicate that it's secreting hormones. But it was triggered by like interactions with my mom. I've talked about this in videos, and I think it is important to talk about this for other kids who are like from narcissistic family structures, who were the scapegoat kids like I was. But yeah, I basically, as I've talked to them about, looked through public records. I just felt compelled one day to like look at public records in like the county that my family lives in. And it showed that basically my siblings had been given a ton of money that I wasn't given. And that's how it goes for scapegoat kids. And it also triggered other stuff relating to like, because I'm privileged. I'm white and I live in the richest country in recorded history and I'm educated. And there's that. And then they have money. My family has money. And sometimes I've benefited from that. I mean, I didn't have to pay for most of college except for like when my dad refused to pay for college one time in part of a narcissistic punishment thing he was doing. That's super rare, right? That's like, so it's also just been like this weird thing where like I feel guilty kind of about the privilege that I have been afforded within that family structure, but then I'm also the scapegoat kid within that family structure. So like I see my siblings who are increasingly awful to me, even though we haven't had much contact in many years, and that's been really painful to kind of be confronted by again, because I did have to interact with them a little bit recently and it was even worse than I thought. Yeah, just like that navigation of like, well, I'm privileged in these ways, but then also I'm the scapegoat kid. And so like, I think as a scapegoat kid, you have to stand up for yourself. That's like the lesson. So the panic attack that I had was triggered after I had a conversation with my mother. I hadn't spoken to her on the phone for 7.5 years. And at first it seemed okay, seemed better. And I reached out to her about all this stuff, like, hey, I saw all this stuff in the public records, including stuff that like my mother benefited from, like her mother-in-law helping her get a mortgage. And it was interesting too, kind of in that, you know, like I see these like criticisms of boomers, this idea that like my mom is a boomer, that boomers like just think that subsequent generations have the same benefits, but they're like hoarding the wealth. And like they don't seem to have an awareness that like people are so hamstrung now because these systems are failing. The economic system is just like taking more and more from like regular people. So like to see, because I don't own a house. I have a tiny house, which I'm very grateful for, which I like overall paid for in cash, in cryptocurrency actually. But I can't live in it because the fucking bureaucracy in that town chased me out of town essentially. But it was also beneficial because it's an off-grid tiny house, and I came to Portland after that episode, and it's been good to be here with like running water and electricity so that I could heal. I think my body wouldn't have been able to relax enough to start actually allowing me to heal if I'd stayed in the off-grid tiny house. And also I couldn't stay there through the winter in Massachusetts because it wasn't set up for heat, like safe heat. What I'm trying to say though is that I saw through these public records that my mother received these benefits from the generation before her, that she is not willing to pass along to me at least, to her other kids. I think she's helping them out. So, but that's a privilege to get help from the generation ahead of you. But then also there's that boomer thing of like, she got these benefits and she's not going to help the next generation. Not even as much as she received, let alone like trying to make things even better for your kids kind of thing. So yeah, speaking to her triggered all my stuff about value, which is so much about what Seeds is too. Like this idea that what I'm offering cannot be seen, it can't be valued, it can't be received. It's been helpful to see like, I would say like, I mean, a good chunk of that comes from this world and what it does to women, because women are undervalued in this world and feminine energy is undervalued in this world and it's taken from. But then, you know, like a majority of that comes from my mother and the way that she specifically treated me as compared to the males in my family. And it's she used to do with my dad. My dad's dead. In the recent phone calls I had with her, she shifted it to my brothers, and not even to my golden child brother, to my other brother so yeah, it's just like her internalized misogyny is really deep and unconscious. But when I point it out to her, she doesn't want to hear about it. And so yeah, it gave me a panic attack. And that's helpful to know that, like, to get clarification around all of that. Like, this is the origin of this. It's mother wound shit. It's like internalized misogyny that my mother did to me. And then there's all of this stuff around money surrounding it. And it's kind of just within that context, it's like, of course I would found Seeds. Of course I would want to do something to address that. I saw this YouTube video recently I'll stop here in a second. But like this girl who makes YouTube videos where she's kind of thinking about spirituality and feminine energy and feminism and stuff. She said something like, it said like, my theory is that we all survive long enough to become the person who didn't exist when we really needed help. Like we become that person for other people if we live long enough and if we heal enough. I just got to chill. And that's what Seeds is working to be, because I haven't had that, right? Like I kind of did sometimes, but like for having rich ass parents who had kids and you would assume that they would want better lives for their kids, it was missing a lot of times. And it's missing for so many of us because these systems are failing us. And that, again, like, I don't mean to act as though Seeds is a panacea or it's perfect. There are huge flaws that we've had to address that have really shown themselves in the last several months. Yeah, it just makes sense that that would be the path, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So hopefully they'll get this biopsy done and I'll learn I don't have cancer, but hopefully they'll determine what actually is the issue and if it's something hormonal, and that will help. I don't think I have cancer, like I said. I know people always say they don't think they have it, but I really don't think I have it. It really does seem like it's something hormonal that's out of whack. Yeah, so there's that. Oh, and as a last thought, I'll say that from a spiritual perspective, astrological perspective, it looks like this year, I mean, people are talking about 2026 astrology and a lot of things changing, but there's also like a big Aries activation that's coming up. It's just started yesterday with Neptune moving into Aries, which is why I did this talk today. But I think April 26th or something, it's like really kicking off and getting into gear. And I'm a triple Aries, and Aries sun, moon, and rising. And I've said this before, but like the more I learn about astrology, the more I'm just like, whoa, there's so much accuracy there. So my sense is that I'm going to have some sort of activation coming up soon that will help align things more. Hopefully I'm going to learn how to speak to the world in a way that they can receive and understand what Seeds is, and will connect with more like-minded people. I think that is coming up. So I'm looking forward to it. I feel like I've been waiting for a long time. Anyway, so I'm sorry this went this long. I didn't intend for it to go this long. Paul says, nice insights and reflection on how to proceed forward. Thanks, Paul. I'm glad you think so. Yeah, hopefully it seems thoughtful, and hopefully it is thoughtful and well thought out. And I think it is. I think we do know what to do to address these problems, but also that at the end of the day, the problem, quote unquote, is just like finding like-minded people and having enough money for it to be nourishing, for it to grow. And we're depleted at the moment. Paul says, I'm glad you got the test done now and you can get treated. Yeah, well, not all of the tests are done yet. They still got to do the biopsy and another CT scan, but yeah, hopefully it's done soon. I also just switched doctors, which meant switching insurance something. So hopefully that will help, because the first doctor I was going to was like scary, incompetent sometimes. And hopefully that's better. Paul says, you are amazing, Rachel. We see the value it brought through your being and Seeds to the world. Thank you, Paul. That's like the kindest thing you could tell me. That really means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Paul. Okay, y'all. Anyone who watches this, anyone who's here might have a lurker. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate y'all very much. And yeah, we're just going to keep moving through all of this. And I think we're going to be looking at a very different world, hopefully pretty soon, in a positive way. But in any case, we're going to keep going and keep doing our best to do what we can to make it more positive. Okay, I'll see you later. Thank you again. Bye.